Report story. Luffy's paw. After coughing up way too much seaweed, Luffy bolted upright. It was only then, however, that he realized his navigator still had her legs wrapped around him. Now, sitting up, Luffy was face to face with Nami. The two of them stared into each other's eyes, the tension in the air almost palpable. Luffy was at a loss for words. The last thing he remembered, he was sinking to the bottom of the ocean, which for some reason feels like years ago. Cough cough. Nami was stuttering as well, face completely scarlet. Before any words could be spoken, however, both of them heard the sound of an arrow being nocked. They both turned to their side to see Marguerite standing before them, bow aimed right at Luffy. I'm sorry. Marguerite looked down for a moment before returning her gaze to Luffy and his navigator, but this can't continue. I can't afford to get too attached to either of you. This is goodbye. With hardly any time to react, Luffy jumped to his feet. Nami wrapped around his torso like a newborn child, and just barely managed to dodge the blonde's arrow. The projectile whistled past Luffy's ear and lodged itself into a boulder in the distance. Although lodged was hardly the right way to describe it, the rock was utterly obliterated by a single arrow. It was the exact same type of power Luffy had witnessed the other women use on the wooden jail cell, but he was still just as perplexed. Oi, he called out. How the heck did you do that? Marguerite knocked another arrow. Our arrows are imbued with hockey. With what? Luffy cocked his head, but Nami, who was able to move to Luffy's backside, wrapped an arm around his neck and practically strangled him. Luffy. Not the time. Let's go. There was a heavy amount of rustling in the jungle nearby, and a woman's voice called out, Marguerite, is that you? Luffy. Nami yelled once more as she buried her head in his back. Without a word, Luffy quickly extended both of his arms, each of them wrapping around a separate tree, and just as Marguerite launched her next arrow and a group of women emerged from the foliage, he jumped off the ground and both he and his navigator were sent flying through the air. Nami's paw. Nami had concluded that she was never going to get used to Luffy's method of travel. She could feel her heart in her throat as both she and Luffy flew into the air, escaping from immediate danger. From this high up, Nami swore she could see two ships side by side not too far from the island's coast. One was a typical marine vessel, while the other was certainly a pirate ship that was seemingly being carried by a large serpentine sea creature. Before she could inspect further, however, they had begun to descend, and it now felt like her heart was about to fly out of her body entirely. Her captain landed back on the ground, still in the deep jungle. All right, Nami huffed as she got off Luffy's back and attempted to reorient herself. From now on, every time we have to do that, I'm fining you 100 million berries. But Luffy began to protest. Hush, Nami put a finger to his mouth as she rubbed her temple with her other hand. We need to think of what to do now. To her surprise, Luffy actually stopped moving and put a hand to his forehead in thought. His face quickly turned red as a tomato and smoke even began pluming out of his ears. Aha! Luffy exclaimed after only a few more moments. I've got it. Nami was astounded. Luffy had already showcased his mental abilities earlier with Rayleigh's Vivre card, but now it seemed he had come up with something else. I don't know what happened to the real Luffy, Nami thought, but I'm not complaining. If we want to ask for a ship, Luffy continued, we should be asking the leader of the island. Nami's confidence in her captain's problem solving fizzled out immediately as her eyebrow twitched. So, what you're saying is, you want to ask for a ship, from Boa Hancock, warlord of the sea. Her captain nodded his head vigorously, and Nami punched him. You idiot. Haven't you learned already? Nothing ever goes right between us and warlords. We should be staying as far away from her as possible, not actively seeking her out. Do I need to remind you that your very existence on this island is apparently punishable by death? Besides, even if somehow we didn't have to worry about her killing us instantly, where would we even find her? Easy, Luffy responded. The leader always lives in the tallest building in the village. Nami hadn't the slightest clue where this logic was coming from, but it was clear that Luffy's mind wasn't going to be changed, so we just have to find the tallest building. Let's go, Nami. With that, the raven-haired boy took her by the hand and started running through the jungle, Nami too shocked to even complain anymore. Where stories live. Discover now.